Today we're going to be looking at my orchestration of Xepher, the one that New Jersey Gamer Symphony Orchestra is premiered a few months ago. Thank you guys so much for performing this arrangement. I loved watching every minute of that performance. Very glad to have the experience. Today, let's talk about all the decisions I made while orchestrating this amazing track from Beatmania 2DX, 12 Happy Sky, and yeah. Before I go forward, I should provide a bit of a disclaimer that not every part was covered in this performance. From what I'm aware, electric guitar wasn't, but it was a great performance nonetheless, even if a few instruments were absent. Just so you're aware getting into this. So let's start from the beginning. Nothing too crazy yet. We got the choir, well, the sopranos, altos, and tenors anyways. For all I know, they could have asked the basses to sing the tenor part because, in my personal experience, choir directors love doing that. In the original recording, it's probably just the sopranos and altos, but I mostly changed that up a little bit out of concerns that not all sopranos will be able to hit that low A. Oh yeah, don't mind my decision to slow it down from 170 to 144 BPM. And let's see. Behind the choir. Right, yes. Yeah, strings, doing some pads, and oh yeah, flugelhorn on the main melody. Strings and flugelhorn. All you need sometimes. Flugelhorn is definitely a choice. Was it because the instrumentation of the orchestra? Well, partially, yeah. I was arranging for an orchestra that did have flugelhorn. Like, I could choose between either having 3 trumpets or 2 trumpets and a flugelhorn, basically. That's what it was. I love how the flugelhorn supports the choir here. Oh, I think I should have also mentioned the key I chose, D minor. Maybe some people that have noticed that is not the same key as the original, which is actually an F minor for a couple reasons. One, to make it fit better within the instruments, with the way I was orchestrating, I guess, and also because F minor is not necessarily the most orchestra friendly key. I know some of the band instruments, it's not too bad, but it's not the most strings friendly key, that's for sure. Let's see, moving on. And first change in texture right here, just crash cymbal being like, and that. So pretty much the main foreground instrument in this next section is piano with all these cool arpeggios and triple figures, all that good stuff. We also got a number of instruments doubling the bass line. We got the organ. Yep, there's an organ in this arrangement. Also choir basses, especially those that are comfortable going down to that low E. I love low notes for choir basses. If anyone can't already tell by the way I speak and my vocal covers. Of course, there is the bit of an unusual feature where I have the bass line doubled up in octaves. I got an octave up in the bassoon and 2 octaves up in the first clarinet. And all that's left to talk about once we get to that, the rest of the choir holding all these chords on an O syllable. Oh, yep. And don't forget the occasional percussion accents right here. So right at the beginning of rehearsal A, you got bass drum. Eventually, you add this cool little melody line on top. I chose to have both flute parts and our one oboe part. on this line. And yeah, more percussion accents, including crash cymbals back. And hey, Tiffany's first entrance. And that's pretty much everything before things start getting a little groovy. I guess compared to the original, it was a, it was a bit of departure from the original to have those arpeggios in the piano instead of organ. But hey, it sounds cool. I don't know. I guess if I were to do things a little differently the next time around, maybe see if I can get this line doubled in another instrument or two. I mean, maybe one of the clarinets, perhaps English horn. Something to think about. And now we get to B. This is where we finally start to get something a little groovy. This is where things start getting fun. So that rhythm, all strings except contrabasses have it. So does the electric bass, and pretty much all the non-single reed woodwinds. We also have some instruments only playing a bunch of accents. Contrabass right here. Our keyboards. Pretty much most of the percussion that's not drum set. Oh, and saxes. Mainly because I may have been a bit afraid to score like a lot of this kind of scoring, just like repeated staccato notes. Maybe too unnecessarily afraid, but here we are. It still sounds cool. Piano, I mainly did that just to bring out the accents a little bit more. I could have just had piano play everything, but I was like, nah, I'm good. Organ, maybe not as great an idea to have to copy this. If Bolero exists, anything can. Fair enough. Fair enough. And yep, then there's percussion. We already have drum set playing. So might as well only have the rest of percussion to accent everything else. And oh yeah, this last measure. You got that in the organ and a bunch of low instruments playing that bass line. Bass clarinet. And oh yeah, contrabass clarinet too. This was an orchestra that had a contrabass clarinet, which is always really cool. And double basses, electric bass, pianist's left hand. And the next 4 bars is nearly a copy paste, except for the da 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 leading into ba 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 ba. Of course, the most appropriate decision there is to have most of the strings spam that A, basses, piano, both of the snare drums, the one in the drum set, and the orchestral snare drum. It's also one of those few times where you might as well have timpani play 16th notes. And, I guess I was a little light on the woodwinds here. Just both flutes on that A. I suppose there might be argument, but you could have had the brass here. We'll get to why the brass sleeves have been empty for quite a while. Yeah, not much else to talk about at rehearsal B. And then the part where the orchestra has this huge tootie on dun 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 dun. Yeah. Not much to talk about here. There's really been like I guess a few simplifications in some of the instruments out of concerns of playability and what can be rehearsed something. I think it's enough to get the main idea of the melody across. So violin ones and violas have the part in octaves. Pass to the second violins briefly right here. This triple octave right here. But for most of this, second violins are doing a bit of the kind of complement something that went dun 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 dun, 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 something like that. And then to round out the string section, cello, bass, bass line in octaves, a classic orchestration strat for a reason. Oh yeah, electric bass is here too. And guitar would have those chords if we had it in this performance. Organs got the melody for most of this until that last chord where I am not going to make an organist spam a 16th note chord. Meanwhile, piano's got pretty much something similar to right hand. Also the bass line in the left hand. And plus the piano can get a little spammier at this measure right here. Love this. And percussion, drum set part, all that good stuff. Oh yeah, the Glock has the melody pretty much as I intended it. Pretty much as I was hoping the audience would hear it. Only other percussion things to note, all these crash cymbals. And a quarter snare drum in that final build-up, timpani. Right. So if you're looking for a score that has some particularly crazy timpani tuning changes, whatever, this is not the one. This timpani part is mostly in the classical realm of just fives and ones. Pretty much the only departure from how Mozart would score for timpani are the addition of these low Ds. Bing bong style. Exactly, Autumn Leaf. And then we got woodwinds playing that bum 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 bum.
Okay, yeah, has the melody. Clarinet 1 does an octave lower, flute 2 and clarinet 2 2 octaves apart. For the most part. Bass clarinet on the bass line.
And oh, no, never mind. There is an example of me putting those kinds of repeated notes in the sax parts. Yeah, except right here, I'm not gonna make them do 16th note spam. Should have included an X with piano gliss or something as an Easter egg. Honestly, that could have been a cool idea. Where would I put it though? Wait, where it happens in the original chart? Okay, I'm gonna have to look that up then. Oh, okay, okay. Could work as in piano. The piano's fingers would hurt, but that's a possibility. Oh, maybe it could be cool with the woodwinds or strings. Like, I don't know. Let me see. Where's my drawing tool? It's me right now. Honestly, I'm having fun, like, imagining how this would even work. Maybe we'd have flutes do something like that. You know what? Let's kind of split it up like that. Okay. Note to self. If I ever get the chance to revise this or something. I guess not too many differences from the beginning of this arrangement, especially after the second bar. We have the entry of the choir existing, and then on this is one of those interesting things about this song in particular. We have like those booshes on the downbeat of the second measure of the phrase. Quite interesting. Woodwinds trail off there. Piano drops out. Guitar and bass drops out. Yeah, pretty much main difference is no flugelhorn in this section. Soltasto in the strings. Hoping that'll make a meaningful difference. I'm sure it did. We have organ on those pads as well. Oh, yeah, and it's the full choir this time. Other than that, nothing else too crazy until the next section, so. Which leads us to our next section. So, you might have noticed that I've been a little light on the brass so far. Well, not anymore. Finally, I let the brass come in. For most of these players, it was 62 measures of rest. Sorry, NGGSO brass section. I had to save you for when you would really have that impact. One of two main features is this giant brass chorale. Just a nice little chorale. Flugelhorn, trumpet, one. Oh yeah, I made euphonium play the melody too. This bit of an organ solo. Choir has the tail end of their la. I know in the original they just keep going with ahs, but I thought this was a cool opportunity to do something a little different. Strings, woodwinds, not too much to write home about, just pads. And then we have piano and glockenspiel providing a bit of the motor and that crash. And that's pretty much all there is. Oh yeah, and I did kind of simplify the organ part a little bit. Pretty much at the request of people who would actually have to play that. And then we're here at F. Let the brass rest for a while, except for one from the tuba. Pretty similar to B, just with ever so slightly more brass. Actually, not as much woodwind. Not as much top end in general. Note how the only two woodwinds playing in this entire section right here are bassoon and bass clarinet, and contrabass clarinet. Brass, you just got that tail end from the chorale, and the tuba going Percussion should pretty much be the same. Not as much keyboard action other than piano going bada 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 bom. And then there's the bada 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 bass guitar same. String chords a little bit lower voiced. I don't even have first violins here. So yeah, just a little bit more slightly held back version of B before we finally expands again. Now we finally get to one of the more recognizable parts of Xepher. A lot like the previous section, except for the addition of a few instruments basically. We have the saxes doing bum 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 bum. I finally let the brass do anything other than be like front and center. You have the tuba and euphonium joining in that bass line. Bum, 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 bum. And what the saxes were doing before, now I have the trumpets and trombones doing that. Oh yeah, horns can be on that jun 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 on that grind too. First violin's back in with the rest of the strings basically. The 16th note runs at measure 82. Now the high winds have got that. Flutes, oboe, I guess technically soprano sax as well, both B-flat clarinets in octaves, and unison alto saxes. If I had electric guitar, they would have a tube. And yeah, organ. Just organ. Oh, never mind. Strings get a slightly simplified version of that. Well, mostly in the first measure. Bum 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 bum. Then they have 86 to 88, kind of the textural copy paste of 82 to 84. Just make sure that you get, instead of now it's more like 89. We've seen this measure orchestrated like this before, save for the addition of brass on those 16ths. This is one of those moments where they need to get their double tonguing game up and running. I might as well talk about G as well.
Pretty much same thing as the last time we have except plus brass.
Oh yeah, that Glock run. That's a pretty cool touch from past me. letter H. Except now there's a groove behind them. Thank you, strings, for that, and electric bass. We would also have some guitar chords as well. Drum set also. Second downbeat, tam tam bass drum, because this song be like that. Okay, we do fade out a good chunk of the brass section, except for euphonium and tuba and octaves on that bass line. Woodwinds, basically doubling the choir. Let's just go with that. Percussion, other than those accents, we got now are unclean, little 2 and 4 action, which are also here. Guitar, strings, also bass clarinet, who is otherwise being given a break here. Piano dot, just to boost that presence of that line, along with bass clarinet. You know what? Let's talk about I as well. Choir's got those echoes. Light. Woodwinds and brass doubling that, doing a little bit of passing it around, using timbral effects to kind of fade it out. The idea was that this is more forte dynamic and mezzo forte, mezzo piano. And so what I did, first time, the loudest of them all, both clarinets, both alto saxes, English horn, and trumpet. Then we do oboe and first horn, then flugelhorn and first clarinet, and then just second clarinet. A little bit of the fading out while passing the old down thing around. Other than that, really just the bass line and a few accents. Even more stripped down version of what we had at F, I guess, except for this bass drum roll. And then this timpani right here, I guess. Oh yeah, and we make room for this yeah, stars in your eyes, stars in your heart motif. Violin one's first, and second violin's violas, similar thing in the woodwinds. We got flutes first, then oboe, then first clarinet, then the other clarinet and bassoon an octave lower. I mean, I could have tried fading the choir in right here, but I am not figuring out how to transcribe what the lyrics would be. What? It sounds like some kind of effect. I was like, I'm not figuring out how to do that. Let's just move it to the strings and woodwinds, I guess. Into the stars in your eyes, stars in your heart, all that good stuff. Oh wow, this is definitely the most complicated section to talk about. All right, let's see if I can get to every single, how many details about this I can get to. Choir's probably a good place to start as any other. So it starts with just the upper voices. Sopranos have stars in your eyes, then altos come in with stars in your eyes. I guess it's a little bit of a departure from the original to have the altos come in an octave lower. It's a cool effect anyways, and I don't want to be mean to my alto section. I do want to include them, but I don't want to bust their voices too hard. And then it comes back in bigger. I add the low voices, an octave lower. Stars in your eyes, stars in your eyes, stars in your heart, stars in your heart. All that good stuff. And strings, pretty much doubling that. Also giving you a little bit of harmony. Da 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 da. Ba, 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 ba. Cellos are doing more adding to the groove than doubling the choir. And I was like, basses, just give me a low D. Only other thing to note is this run right here. I put in a bunch of other instruments, so there it is. Rhythms section, electric bass also got those low Ds. If I had guitar, they would do that last stars in your heart with that arpeggio. A little bit of soloistic stuff from the organ. Piano's mostly sticking to when we still got that little groove. Piano's mostly adding to that groove and mostly drops out pretty much at the same time as drum set does, except for ba 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 drum set, groove for first 4 measures, and then take a break for 4 measures. Basically, that's what this is. Then bass drum. I think I had some muffled hits before. Oh yeah, the 16th notes right there. Yeah, most of the percussion is just accenting things. Oh, and that one run in the glockenspiel too, I guess. Yep, timpani's got some low Ds. Brass starts a little bit stripped back just to trombones and tuba. Then we can have the rest of the brass section come in 123 to 126. Okay, tuba does drop out, but trumpets, trombones, euphonium, a lot of love to that. Ba 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 ba. Bass trombone still gives offbeats, some emphasis. And then horns get to do a little echo thing. Ba. So we got ba 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 ba. And woodwinds. Basically none in these first 4 measures. And then we got those same echo gestures, a little more evenly balanced in terms of instrumentation. First we got the high winds minus flutes, then low winds minus bari sax and bass clarinet, and then pretty much the same thing. Oh, these runs where flutes come in. Whew, okay, I think that's everything to talk about that section. Whew. Let's just get K while we're at it. So, basically, the organ solo. In this performance, our keyboardist played this as written, but I was like, you know what? If you want to improvise a solo, here are the chord changes, have fun. Not what they did, but something worth noting. We got some offbeat accenting from the electric bass and strings. This is where the harmony gets pretty funky as well, by the way. So I'm not afraid to write in F minor, even if it's only for like 2 bars. There's 2 bars in F minor. I'm not even 100% sure what key these 3 bars are in, to be honest. I don't know, chat. What are your guesses on what key we say this section is in? I'll let you guys guess while I finish explaining how I orchestrated this. Percussion, pretty run-of-the-mill. Drum set grooving. Snare drum also doing a little bit of grooving, I guess. And then timpani helps with that build-up. Brass doubling the choir. A little bit of woodwind helping with that drive. All right. I think that's enough talking about J and K specifically. Okay, so yeah, L. Not too different from the last time we had existing in this place. All that good stuff. And then M. I do beef up the orchestration a little bit as we get into the first time we have different words on that. It's a melody. You will live in shadow of shade and come in the 8th sin. More brass. I did hold back on specifically trumpets, but other than that, brass. I guess this is like the first flute entrance in a while. And, oh, timpani roll. Nice. Some things to help build those final 2 measures where the melody actually does change. Everything into nothing. I promise that it's important that the choir does not breathe between everything and into. I promise that's important. Oh, organ's back. Okay, not much to speak of, I guess. The brass, the fact that this section's a little thicker in orchestration than the previous, bit of the creative liberty, to be honest. I'm sure there was a lot of copy pasting in the original version that I did not exactly settle for in my own orchestration. I guess the brass's entrance was a little bit more subtle than I thought it was. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I marked them at mezzo. Marked most of the mezzo piano, anyways. That makes sense. I'm learning a lot about my own arrangement and GGSO's performance through this stream. We're getting near the end here. Probably the last moment with pretty much the whole orchestra together, actually. So this is the... Strings basically get that whole shebang with a few simplifications in the lower strings, plus some passing back and forth with that last arpeggio thing. Choir is just holding that last syllable. Choir is holding the last syllable of nothing for 4 measures. I know, I'm cruel. I get it.
Bass guitars have movement accent what's important. Same with piano and organ. Basically unison. Dum, da da dum. Drums hit hi-hats, got that rhythm. Snare drum accenting that. Then pretty much most of the percussion's got that final one. Oh, timpani you're here too. Timpani's got the tonic and dominant stuff as before.
Brass, I was like, whatever makes sense for each instrument. Oh, other than flugelhorn and euphonium doubling the choir's final thing right there. Horns, trumpets, and trombones doing taking advantage of their double tonguing abilities. Okay, bass trombone, I decided to go easy on the flugelhorn has that, but the rest of the brass just waits till downbeat though to come back in. Yeah, and most woodwinds, reeds, I'm not gonna make you tongue that fast, just do da, 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 da. Flutes, on the other hand, have fun with those 16s, basically. Oh, all of you high winds get to enjoy that. But yeah, that is everything to say about N, I suppose. Yeah, we're basically the home stretch with this arrangement analysis. That was the last part that had the whole orchestra. There are some instruments that never come back in again after that. So we have the downbeat, of course, make that as massive of the 2D as possible. And then after that, 90% of the rest of this is organ. Until 168, it's pretty much all organ. Then we get to letter P. On the instrumental side, I think it's still just organ, but hey, choir's back. Welcome back, choir. This time I was able to be a little lighter on the harmonies, so just sopranos and altos this time. You will live in shadow. They can be in use in these first 2 bars to compensate for not every soprano going down to low A. And then we have the 2-part harmonies. Sopranos and altos and organ until this final boosh, timpani, low D, tam-tam and bass drum. Drum set also does kick and crash cymbal. Piano, a rare instance of violating the lower interval limits for a special effect. Basically, D minor chord, lowest octave possible. It's supposed to sound faintly like a D minor chord, but at the same time, it's kind of a little bit more boom. You just hear a slight hint of D minor right there. And then choir has that echo gesture. Lie, and the only appearance of the pianissimo dynamic in this entire score. Try cluster chord down there. I mean, I wanted to sound like D minor there, just a little bit vague. Maybe I could have done some clusters above this though. Maybe I could have done something like I'm starting to realize how much I love how they just let that last chord ring out. Oh, that's awesome. So yeah, there we go. That is pretty much all of my Zephyr arrangement. A lot of cool things. So basically, the order of events is like this: choir and strings and flugel, and then all the piano arpeggios. We finally start grooving, and then choir sings existing in this place again. Actually, oh yeah, letter E. Fun fact: I used to have this marking right here. That'll be a cool visual gesture. And the GSO did talk me out of actually keeping it, but yeah, this was a thing. I've been told that it might not be super great for intonation and stuff. But yeah, it's like the brass's first entrance in this entire arrangement, and it's supposed to just like be bum 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 bum. So there's a cool fun fact for anyone curious. And yeah, groove. But bigger thanks to the brass, choir plus groove, and then that cool little echo gesture at I, and then probably the most orchestrationally complex section. Organ solo, return to the choir here, and then bigger. And then just bright balcony trumpets in would be so cool. Yeah, no, that was a thought that crossed my mind as well. Because I also considered the possibility that maybe MagFest Community Orchestra might want to play it, and if they do, then like I probably look into getting a bigger brass section than most the other pieces. So I'd be like, hey, missed the sign up period for the MagFest Community Orchestra, but would still like to play with them for a tiny piece of the song. Why don't you join like a little balcony brass ensemble that I would have for just letter E of Zephyr? I don't know. Random thought. But yeah. So if you could do one of these, leave a little comment, hit that subscribe button wherever it is. Maybe hit that bell if you can. That would be awesome. Thanks.